This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 811, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you who are boosted and thoughtful and helpful and considerate, and we're back! Hello, welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 811. Welcome to year 16.
Really?
Old enough to drive in some places.
Jesus. Used to be old enough to drink or smoke, but obviously not anymore.
No. So, this is happening. Well, my name is Connor Kilpatrick, and this is my co-host, Josh Flanagan.
If you're out there listening, you might be thinking, oh, it's been a while since they put out a show. If you're sitting here talking, you're thinking, didn't we just say we were going to take a break and do this?
I haven't been awake this early in at least a month, and when I was awake this early, it was because I hadn't gone to bed.
Right.
I haven't woken up this early.
That's the captain of old right there. I'm kind of proud of you.
Or someone who took a really ill-timed flight. Hey, what is the show? We are iFanboy, and every week we read a bunch of comics. One of us picks the book they like the best from their stack of comics they read. We call it the Pick of the Week. And oh, dear God, when will this ever end? We're still doing it. These are the jokes. They're not great jokes, but these are the jokes. We do like to do this show.
They're jokes.
We talk about the book we picked, talk about the other books in the week, talk about the Patron Pick, talk about the listener mail if we have time. We try to have fun in the new year. I'm pumped, Josh. I don't know about you. I'm excited to get back into comics. Talk about it with you.
You do sound peppy because you brought up like, oh, I haven't been up this early in a while. You sound just raring to go. As soon as you said the cold open, you were just woo.
I'm ready to go. And so here's a spoiler warning. There'll be some spoilers, exercise some caution. Josh, you had to pick, and I just say before you jump into it, you may not remember last year when we started the show again after the break. The first 2 weeks were terrible. And I only remember this because we got an angry email from a listener who said, I don't know why I listen to you guys. You clearly hate comics. I'm stopping listening. Fine, that's your prerogative. The third week was terrific. And that guy, if he did in fact stop listening, missed a gush fest the next couple of weeks. That's the game we play. I'm not saying this week was terrible. This week was okay.
I mean, okay is a stretch. This week was... I was living in fear that I would be hit with like an onslaught of comic books, and then I went to sort of make my list and I put my books together.
How many do you have left from the break that you haven't read?
I think I have, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 25 left. I've sort of been chipping away at them, but I started later. But for the most part, I was caught up on the books for this week, and I think I had, at the end of the day, I think I only read 12 or 13 books. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, is like $50 worth of comics. So for anybody trying to keep up, that's not nothing. And it was not a great week. It was a bland week, is what it was. And I actually had a hard time filling out this script with stuff. And I think that there's a good chance that we will get emails again from people.
I don't think it was bad. I remember it being really bad last time. Mm-hmm. I think I like this week slightly more than you did. We did read different books, so that's good. Makes sense. But I thought there's nothing that blew my socks off this week, so I understand your position.
So the pick of the week is Thor number 746. The cover is going to say 20. That's bullshit.
The line. Yeah,
I don't. That's the red pill or the blue, whichever the pills are.
We're starting a revolution. Come join it.
Are we doing Q shit?
Yeah, I told you I'm adding a new segment.
Right.
Yeah. I told you I spent a lot of time on YouTube over the break. I learned a lot of things.
Your eyes are open.
Yeah, mine have been opened.
We're through the looking glass here, people. Okay, so part of my backlog stuff was that I had read Thor 745,
right? And
that was the start of a new arc, and the hammer's gone. And, that seems like it's going on forever. But I really enjoyed that first issue. And so I was in a good place that when I got to the newer one, I was actually looking forward to it because I'd gotten to the end of that. I was, I want to know what happens next. And the what it was basically that Thor had to go, he can't find the hammer and people are getting killed everywhere. And he goes and gets Odin and they have their argument, but they decide they have to work together. And they go to the dwarves who had forged it and they're all dead and they've been killed by hammers.
Yep, someone hammered them.
And so, like, coming up to this one, I was genuinely looking forward to it. And I was like, this feels like some Thor. Because while the hammer is missing. There's still hammer problems. But, basically this whole series for years has just been about male impotence. That's all this book is.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just this constant, I can't get a boner, and I define myself by my boner,
right.
And that's what it is. And if you lean into it, but
I mean, you're not wrong, and this is a thing I thought about a lot this week. My inability to get a boner is that there's so many books that are just about taking the hero off the board, and they may be done really well, like Action Comics, which we're not going to talk about. I think is a good story if it was a Black Label story, but it's just taking Clark Kent off the board, and Detective Comics is taking Bruce Wayne off the board, and Thor has been for years taking Thor's confidence or his hammer or something off the board to make him less Thor, and I feel like that's the only story, in many ways, being told through a lot of these books right now. So it's a little annoying, but this was a really well done book, so it's hard to.
Well, however, in this context, he's not having self realization anxiety. His mission is to go get the hammer back. But
right.
and then this one also has he's got to deal with his father, and they have a fight, and that's classic Thor. That's not new. They should be doing that, and their positions are changed from where they were, and it's pretty interesting. And then Loki shows up, and then they have a family tete-a-tete where they have to deal with each other, and I was like, okay, this is the business,
right?
But Thor's not. Doubting himself and worrying about what they've got a mission. They've got to go on it. And
was it in this book or another book this week where he mentioned that he was felled by a whisper?
I don't think it was in this one.
It might have been a different one. It might have been an Avengers book.
Maybe, but
it might have been one of the books I read over the break. I don't know.
Yeah, that gets very confusing. So it gets difficult to do. We will make mistakes. But I really do think that anybody who is working in comics right now whose work I am familiar with, Donny Cates is the best person to be working on this book. I cannot think of another person who should be doing this.
And Nick Klein is terrific.
Yes, Nick, and I think it's Matt Wilson on color.
Yes,
it's a hardcore, it's a good crew, and it's just it isn't. It's kind of the end of the world, but it kind of isn't. This is Thor's always sort of on the end of the world, and that's the deal. And I just enjoyed it. It was pretty high on my Thor gosh scale. Or I guess let's see, what would good old Thor?
If you want goth, it's goth. No, goth.
Good old Thor comics. I don't know.
If you want to turn this book into a comedy, change the word Mjolnir to Blanky, and it's just. About a guy who can't find his blankie, and he needs it.
Or Wiener.
So
make it Wiener.
The whole thing here is that he does find Mjolnir at the end, but Mjolnir has become sentient, or maybe something like Mjolnir has become sentient.
Right. And it's a lady, which is
it's like
which
the ship
is a fun take.
Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
So he can finally bang his hammer, which is probably wanted to do for a long time.
Sure, I think that's. I mean, if we're carrying this metaphor out, it kind of really.
So I enjoyed this.
Are we doing low grade blue? Is that 2022 for us?
Blue, yeah. But yeah, this was fun. This was a good issue.
and I guess there is a bit of a caveat in that, there's nothing else that I was like, I can make this pick of the week. I found myself.
It is what it is.
Even the books that I enjoy, I was kind of I was underwhelmed by, I think. And I admit to this, and this might come up through this show. There was a bit of why am I so confused by this? And it wasn't that, I was like, maybe it's been so long that I haven't read it, but I don't think it was just that. I think it was just, I've lost track of, because it's only been a month, really. It's that's how long it used to be. Now that's changed. No wonder comics go out every 2 weeks. Our human ability to take in information has changed, so they have to keep them that often. But this was a solid pick of the week. I read it and I was like, it could be pick of the week, and I had been looking forward to it, and it delivered, and it was really good, and I knew the people working on it. So I mean, not personally. I was like, oh, so this is a creative team I'm looking forward to, and they delivered the thing. This is the week of a lot of the books have people on them I've never heard of any of these people, and it made me think that if you really want a steady job in comics, you want to go into lettering, because those guys are steady as the mail. They always show up. I don't know what these other names are. And as we
you
go
won't make
into
any money whatsoever. but
No.
you work.
But you will have a sense of this, like, without me, this all
Something
comes
falls apart.
tumbling down. Like
Well,
there is a little, like, I don't make the most money, I don't get the most notoriety.
I don't even get put on the cover. Right? What are you gonna get? Rob Steen? He's busy.
So that said, as we go into Amazing Spider-Man number 885, with Cody Ziegler, Paco Medina, who I know, colors by, and this is a new entry into greatest names in comics, Espen Grundehirn.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, of course, Big Joey C. Joey C. Again, look through these. You're never going to see a letterer's name. You're like, who's this guy? These guys are stalwarts.
So just before you get to it, I looked it up last time. Cody Ziegler is a TV writer.
That makes sense. That's where they come from.
This is how this particular. Well, this is the. It's not. Well, I think it's 3 issues a month. It's basically weekly, but one week off, and it's like Kelly Thompson and
Jed McKay,
Zeb Wells, and then Cody Ziegler. And I was like, who the hell's Cody Ziegler? I looked it up, and he's a TV writer, and which makes sense because his particular issues feel a little off from the others in terms of dialogue. It's a little more cutesy. It's a little more intranet-y. Which
I mean, it's interesting because if you think about it, like economically, the gulf between comics and TV used to be so high that you would really only do comics if like you didn't have a job or do whatever.
Oh, you really,
but,
really
like,
loved them.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, so it's one of those or some combination. Now I feel like between streamer costs, now it's just like, well, this is just a part of doing the job now. So it's kind of less impressive. Oh, there's a TV writer on this. Ooh, and now it's like, no, there's just writers, man. They'll write what they can.
So I'm of two minds of this Spider-Man story because I hate Ben Reilly, but I think this is fun overall, this particular story.
I think my thing about, I don't hate Ben Reilly because I think his stories have been kind of interesting. I think it's ridiculous. I have many thoughts. I think it is ridiculous that the first time we have a global blockbuster movie in years
$1 billion movie.
And Spider-Man's in the fucking hospital in a coma.
And he's not even in this issue. Yeah.
He's not, like, come on.
Yeah.
This is Disney. They invented synergy.
Right.
And he's in the fucking coma in the hospital. It just doesn't make any sense. And I guess the other thing is that, like, they've done this before where they have a team of people and they come out either weekly or near enough.
Yep.
And I've enjoyed issues from here, but I never know what I'm going to get, so I don't look forward to it. I'm like, is this going to be good or bad? Like, and it's not like, it's like a candy bar. Like, if you're eating it, you kind of want to know it's going to be good. Because
there was an issue over the break. I think it was, I don't know. Actually, I don't know who wrote it. It might have been Kelly Thompson. It was all Peter. Like, he woke up and he was doing PT. That was a really good issue.
It was, but it was also like mostly hallucination, which I hate. But that's just me.
I thought this was good. Paco Medina looked great.
Yeah.
One thing and this is not the fault of the issue or the creative team. It's just the general thing is they had Doc Ock dating May for a long time. This was a while ago, and it's like, how old is Doc Ock supposed to be? And they call him Grandpa here, and I feel like they aged him up a lot.
Well, they did. I mean, there's no design template for this character. Like, he is all over the map. Like, for a little while, he was like almost attractive,
right? And
now he's back to like '60s version of it
bowl
with
cut.
his bowl cut and his Bagley glasses. Those are Bagley glasses, by the way.
Yeah. So there's
So like,
I'm
every time
I'm
you come
enjoying
in,
this story. I think it is well written overall. Right. Here he fights Doc Ock. Doc Ock's pissed because the Beyond Corporation basically bought the patents up from the Parker company, which included his work when he was Superior Spider-Man. So he's like all about intellectual property here. And so he's attacking them. And the life of being Spider-Man is not great for Ben and his girlfriend because he's constantly being called away when they're going on dates, as is, the case with Spider-Man. And, I don't... There's things I don't like in specifics, but I do overall enjoy it. I don't want to knock the Spider-Man book because I have been enjoying it.
I think there's good things. That's why, given the feeling that I have before I go into it, this is a book that I would think about dropping. But the fact is, like, I've enjoyed somewhere between many and several of the issues. but I don't know what I'm gonna get, and it kind of bothers me. And I don't know that that's fair to the book, but that's my feeling on it. The one other bit is that I'm really not interested in the evil beyond corporation part. The lady, is her name Maxine, like the boss, the short-haired lady who's Lex Luthor or whatever with her droll eyebrows, is super one-dimensional and not interesting. I mean, maybe there's some other element of her that is going to pop up, but right now she's just, the arch person who's there to fuck things up. And if that's going to be, that's our antagonist. It's not our villain, but it's our antagonist. And I feel like she needs to be more interesting for me to care about. Like,
Yeah, we don't really know their aims.
You don't know anything about them. We're supposed to, I don't know. I want it to be more interesting than it is. And maybe this is one of those things like if this really was a kid's comic, and maybe this, this is actually pretty good at being sort of an all ages kind of comic that reminds me of the comics when we were kids. So that's good. But I feel like I want more out of it.
I mean, her name is Maxine Danger. So they should have known.
I can't blame a superhero comic book for having an arch one-dimensional, villain, but I am kind of bored by it. That's what I'm getting at.
I mean, my least favorite thing in comics, it's my least favorite trend, is the team in the ear. It's like there's no more heroes by themselves on their own. That's not true. There's no more, but it feels like there's less and less of the hero is by themselves. I mean, it could be just because it's like every fucking show on the CW features a team back in the lab in the Flash's ear, or Green Arrow's
I feel like
ear.
it's an outgrowth of cell phones that have ruined movies.
But it's also I feel like writers just they want someone to talk to. They want someone for the hero to talk to. Fine, I get it. But if it's Oracle, or if it's, who was the dude that used to be in Punisher's ear a long time ago in the 80s?
I was going to say Frenchie, but that was
like one person maybe that's fine, but like we've got a whole team analyzing for you. Microchip. It's just it's less to me. It lessens the hero if they have a whole team on Wikipedia or Google the whole time, helping them figure stuff out.
To be fair, if we're doing a story that's different than Peter Parker is the character that doesn't have that.
Right.
So now Ben Reilly is the character that does, and carries a menace with it.
I just want to reiterate, I'm enjoying this obviously more than you are, so I don't want to denigrate too much.
I do like the context of all of the Beyond employees seem like they're pretty good people and are also freaked. They're like, we're just trying to do our best. That's kind of interesting. It's
like any corporation, right? They may have evil aims or an evil leadership, but there's just dudes clocking in, getting a paycheck.
Yep. That's kind of interesting. I'll give it that.
The script is wrong here. Dark Knights of Steel #3 is the issue.
That's correct. Which leads directly to my point about the issue is that I definitely read #2. Mm-hmm. I definitely didn't read it that long ago, but I really felt like I missed something.
Oh, well,
I don't know why, but
I think I read #2 probably like a week ago. But
okay, so we're good. That's not
You didn't miss it. My only critique, and this is I'm enjoying this. Tom Taylor, Yasmin Putri, we talked about in the first issue, in his pick of the week, does terrific art, really dynamic and sort of classically fantasy-like. Yes. My only concern is, and I don't want to prejudge something that hasn't happened, is that it feels like it's moving very quickly. And we have this is issue 3 of 12, and I feel like this is a world that we could really slow down and really explore with more issues. But I get that we only have 12, and maybe no more than that, so he's got to get through his story. But man, I just wish they would widen the camera a bit for him. But I get we can't because there's a lot going on.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think that you're right, and that could happen maybe in sort of auxiliary series or something like that. But I am also kind of the mind of, all right, we're 3 issues in, let's get to the thing that's actually going to happen. And I feel like we just moved into Act 2, which I think is so it's going to be that thing, which I like.
Well, we have the war between the realms, and we have the wild card, which is Supergirl, who is pissed
that's
off
interesting.
That her, I guess not her dad, but her uncle is dead, and she's going around killing the rivals. She kills King Jefferson Pierce, and they've discovered kryptonite has landed on Earth and is fucking shit up. Like, I think there's a lot of fun, interesting things going on here. As ultimately, I guess the ultimate story is the war between the realms, but there may be something else going on we just don't know about yet.
I just felt like I was really looking forward to it, and at the end I was kind of I don't know. It didn't do a lot for me, but I don't have a reason for it.
Yeah.
These are all subjective views this week. I think I wanted to come back into comics and be like, yeah, show me something. And I was like, oh, it's just more of the same stuff.
Well, that's how it's going to be. It's comics.
That is.
There was an interesting bit here on page 7 where Supergirl puts her fist through a knight, and the sound effect covers her hand. And I was trying to figure out if that was something done after the fact, like they were trying to tone it down, or it was a device, but I couldn't figure that out.
I'm looking at that. If you zoom in,
you can see the fist there.
It's not a fist; it's a straight hand, I think.
Oh yeah, she put her hand through him.
Right.
And I was trying to figure out if they, like, after the fact, that, let's tone this down a little bit and cover that up. But.
So as soon as you said that, what I was looking at is the anatomy correct? Like, is the length of her arm right? And I think it is, which makes that an awesome drawing.
Yeah, the art in this is terrific. She's great. Great anatomy,
Yes.
action, dynamic.
Yeah, it's so good. It's kind of perfect for the story. This is one of those ones where I was like, I feel like I wanted to like it more than I did, but when I talk to Connor, then I will. This is a thing that you do for me on certain things.
I mean, I'm just looking at like the attack on the Jefferson ship. Like, there's some great action pages. The page 19 on your digital reader where they're shooting at Supergirl with their lightning cannon, and everything goes wonky. And look at the water underneath. Like, this is a very well-drawn book.
We talked about this in the first issue, I think. Is that when you actually like look at the page as a composition, and you almost have to will yourself to do it. So if you take a look at page 22, it's right near the end. Batman is riding his horse with Alfred, and we have an overhead shot, and there's sort of crows, or and there's dead bodies. Then you move down to a low angle shot where he looks over his shoulder, and it's very dramatic. And then we have the low angle shot of them walking away. So it's the camera has zoomed down behind them, and the crows are sort of feasting. The crows are in the foreground. And then you look at even the light that is popping off of Alfred. Alfred's in the light.
Great.
And Batman's in the dark, and then he's sort of walking into the light, and it's got that sort of sunrise golden hue. That's
Arath Prianto is the colorist. Good job.
Yeah.
One more thing. Look back, page 20. We've got another instance of King Jefferson gets shanked, and the sound effect covering the shanking. So I don't know if that's intentional.
I feel like the other one, I could see it going either way, but I feel like that is that's the best place to put the sound effect.
Yeah.
And it's interesting here is that the sound effect, the coloring of it is really good. So I'm wondering who did that. Like, does the colorist and the letterer come in and match that?
Yeah.
If so, that's some amazing work by the letterer. You got to give these people credit. Actually, in in that same page, the sound effect for Tomb. Is great. That's a great sound effect, and it tracks her path, and it's I don't know. That's really good. This is a good crew. A lot of times, for whatever reason, Tom Taylor shows up and he gets a bunch of people you haven't heard of for the most part working on his book. And I think in the old days it was Injustice. He was it was not a priority of putting the biggest talent on it. But now I think that's shifted, where he's getting people we don't know, but they're great.
Yeah. So Detective Comics 1047, this is the first issue of Shadows of the Bat, the new 12-issue weekly story happening in Detective. We had a prelude issue last week, which was sort of wrapped up the last storyline and started this one before we jumped in here. This features, at least this week, artist Ivan Reis with Danny McKee on inks. I can't imagine Ivan Reis is doing all 12 issues. That'd be insane. So we've been in this game a long time, Josh, in the comics reviewing game. So
sure.
I have a hard time turning off my antenna. So the premise of this story is that Batman is gone in Europe. That's happening not Europe. He's in Asia right now. He's gone globally in Batman. And so in Detective, this is back in Gotham, and it's the sidekicks all alone. Now, I know Warner Brothers has a video game coming out called Gotham Knights. That's all about Batman has been killed, and so it's up to the sidekicks to protect Gotham. And they're also developing a TV show of the same title and premise. So I don't know if this is synergy happening, or if it's just coincidence. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing either way. It was just caught my eye that now we have a book about just the sidekicks on their own, when we have other media coming out about that same idea. But this was another instance here again of, the main hero is off the board.
At least that makes more sense than having Peter Parker be in a coma.
So, coming out of the fear state, the terrible fear state storyline, Gotham City has decided.
Wait. What that reminded me of is whenever you read stories about election false claims, like the proper news media is always like, and of course Trump's is sort of these lies, and they move along as if it is fact because it is. And what you just did was the same thing, coming out of the objectively terrible fear state story.
It's all subjective. I thought it was terrible. A lot of people did too. A lot of people liked it. That's fine. You can like it or love it or hate it or not hate it. It's all art.
It's fake news, Connor.
So clearly the people in charge of Gotham City never played Sim City, because the idea here is they're moving Arkham Asylum from the outskirts of the city, and they're building Arkham Tower smack dab in the middle of the city, so that it's something you can't just push away out of your mind. No more out of sight, out of mind for Arkham Asylum. And it's like,
so it's IMBY in my backyard,
right? And anyone who played SimCity knows you can't put the airport right in the middle of the city. You got disaster on your hands. You're just waiting for a plane crash. Well, this is what happens here. And I liked the did you read this? Because I know we talked about you might read this.
I did, but you can talk about it.
I liked the time jumping aspect of it. So we start in the beginning, and it's like they're building it, and they're having the press conference, and it's all nice. And then it's like we smash cut to day 24, and it's like already disaster. And I thought that was a nice and funny device. Mm-hmm. This is written by Mariko Tamaki. He's been writing it for detective for a while, and I don't know who this main villain character is who has started to break up, but we have Batwoman, and we have Cassandra Cain, and we have Stephanie and Dick and Oracle, and they're all here, and they're all trying to do their best to keep Gotham held together while Batman's away as Arkham just is burning. And I thought this was well done. I love Ivan Reis. I think he's a terrific artist, and Mariko Tamaki's been doing solid work on Detective, even through the storylines that I haven't been enjoying. But I did enjoy it. I liked the bit in the beginning where the mayor is confronted by someone who tried to kill him because he's been quote unquote rehabilitated by the new Arkham, and I thought that was a nice dramatic moment. And I just I don't love this reporter character who's apparently now a major character in this book, but it's all interesting. I liked it.
I didn't care for it. And it's not even that it was bad. I just was like, at the end of it, I was like, I didn't care about anything that just happened. I think the backup story was actually a very good example of something that I thought was really good. I thought it was really, really well done. My favorite bit about it is the very first page. It says years ago, and we have like this glossy, not glossy, but this beautiful shot of a boy and his mom in there, and it's sort of all dream colored, and it's beautiful. And then we cut to the dad, who looks like some grimy 70s Gotham Central figure coming up the stairs, and the art style never goes back to that first one. Right. So in the first panel, everything is golden, and then after that, everything goes bad.
Nothing stays golden, Josh.
And basically, the dad comes in, and he's like, "We got to go," and then Joker is knocking on the door. And like, it's the grimmest, most awful version of Joker you can imagine. I don't mean writing wise. I mean like he's evil and kills everybody, and Batman shows up, and that doesn't go. I thought it was really, really well done, but I just thought, I don't want to read this. Like it was so like, I was like, there's just so dark, and it's really good, but I just am not in the mood for the thing. But it was really good. Is that a fair?
Sure.
Like, he was so well done. I think Rosenberg, and I've had him on the show or whatever, but I genuinely think he's fantastic at his job. And the art in this was great. It reminded me of like a lot of artists I like.
Fernando Blanco looks a lot like Michael Lark.
Yep, there was Gotham Central stuff in there, but the golden shot at the beginning was beautiful. Jordi Belair on colors, obviously, so that makes sense. And of course, Rob Lee, because that dude is the letter is the anchor. That is the message of 2022. Is the letter is the anchor. I thought it was great.
Well, you got Crispus Allen here. You've got Gordon.
Yep.
It feels very Gotham Centrally.
But it was also very like The Wire In the season 4, we're like, we got these kids, and it's like, there's no one to do anything about it. And I think Gordon is on the phone at one point, and he's like, I don't care how much money they make. There's a kid here.
Yeah.
So it's a person like you need somebody to take care of the kids, and like, well, they don't make it, which is true. It's true they don't make anything, but it's a kid, so you got to do the thing.
Yeah, it's not business hours. The office is closed. There's no one to take this kid. He's like, to my house.
And the upshot, by the way, in The Wire, they would have taken him to his house. The upshot of it, though, is that they put the kid in Arkham, and I was like, that's just a terrible decision. So it's all good. Talking about it now makes me want to read more because I just like the structure of it. But I did like when the Joker comes in and he kills the parents with the kid watching. I was like, I can't take this right now. It was really good.
I mean, it happened off panel.
Well, kind of. It happened through slats.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see it. We saw the blood afterwards. We didn't see him hack him. We heard the screaming.
I was like, it's this kind of Joker.
Right.
Like, he's like, we don't want any trouble. He's like, trouble's all I bring. And I was like, oh, fuck.
So this is the end of the first volume because now we only have 5-issue arcs. I'm telling you, man, they're squeezing us. It's going to be 3-issue created soon enough.
That's fine. It's either like too short or too long.
My feeling on this is the same as it's been most of the, like, there's things in here I like, there's pages in here I've liked, there's scenes I've liked, but overall I just kind of don't know what to make of it.
I don't think there was any point in this last issue. It was kind of, I mean, like, I think it was to set up the next thing that came along, but in terms of like a story and a button.
It showed us a wider world, which we haven't seen before, which is that there's a whole civilization living outside the bubble cities, and it's all basically right-wing militias. And, one of the problems I think I've had with this book is that it's sort of all over the place. In the beginning, it was kind of like a thing about automation, and then it became a thing about toxic masculinity, and now I don't know if it's moving into a thing about politics because the cities versus the outside the cities, which is what we're dealing with in the real world. And
they're
so that's
literally
kind of
called bubble cities.
Yeah, they're bubble cities. And so here, you go up on trial and against the justice algorithm, and you're not always sent to death or prison. You're expelled from the city in a garbage chute, and you end up outside the city where it's just like a Mad Maxian hellscape. And it was okay.
It was okay, and I think that if you had left off at the end, hey, it was nice that the next door neighbor gave him his sex bot though, with his wife's name.
Jennifer Jason Leigh sex bot. Yeah.
The best thing about it though, I thought it was a beautiful designed cover. It's one of those the electronic on-off switches. Yeah. The circle with the line through it, and then above it is a noose. And I was like, Jesus, it's dark.
Yeah. So the family that's been in the center of all this gets broken up. The wife and the 2 kids get jettisoned out of the city, and the father's left alone. The father played by Michael Douglas.
No, the wife was found guilty and jettisoned out of the city.
Right.
The kids said, "We're out of here, Dad, and we're taking the grandma bot with us." And he was like, "I own you," and she's like, "I'm out of here." And then she said an ad. Because they had the cheap one that had to have the ads, which is also brilliant. Like, that's the thing about this book is that, like, narratively, it's a little hard to get a hold of, but there's enough things in the middle that you're like, oh, that's good. That's pretty good. And I also think that while I would have never said that Mike Deodato Jr. and Lee Lowridge are the right people to be doing this book, I think they're totally the right people to be doing this book.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool looking. It's very fun. If I was the artist, I would have a lot of fun doing this.
I'll probably read the next issue, but I'm not super invested in the book.
I believe I've subscribed, so I'm going to forget to do that, and it'll just show up.
I don't know how to unsubscribe, so that's how they get you. Inferno
I'm
number 4.
I'm guessing that's 60% of Comixology's revenue.
Inferno, I'm sure there is a way, I just don't know it. Inferno number 4 is the final issue of Jonathan Hickman's run on X-Men, and I think, we don't pay attention to the news anymore, but I think it was cut prematurely short. So this is felt a little rushed. And drawn by Valerio Schiti and Stefano Caselli. It looked great. David Curiel, of course, Joe Sabino anchoring on letters. But I don't feel like I know the X-Men well enough to fully grasp everything here. And also, anytime the aliens showed up in this whole scenario, I've sort of checked out mentally. But this was a solid ending. It had some good dynamic Hickman tense conversations over tables amongst the quiet council who are all running the show. And one thing I thought was really interesting about it was it didn't end the status quo. Like you'd think that after all this time, Hickman's Fuck Island story, they would cap it off and let a new writer take over. But no, it's the same status quo. The X-Men are not, they have not been, put back in the toy box the way they came out. So
That's a tough situation to unfuck. And I don't even mean that in a bad way, but like they set up a status quo, and that's a tough one to get away from. So that's the thing. Also, I think it gives, a world that was maybe a little bereft of new ideas. Like it's a platform.
I like the status quo. It's interesting. So in this issue, Professor X and Magneto are killed, but then they're resurrected. So now they're also clones. It's all very crazy. But I don't feel like I would enjoy this issue as much as if I knew more about the X-Men. Like I know a lot about the X-Men, but I haven't been reading every issue of X-Men in the last 20 years. I've jumped in and out. So there's a lot here. A lot of a nuance I'm probably missing. But I thought this was a solid issue.
I can't imagine Jonathan Hickman's read every X-Men in the last 20 years either.
Who knows?
Well,
he's intense.
He is intense. That's a really good point. I'm going into the room. What?
Hey, look, we have a 6-issue miniseries now. One Star Squadron is a 6-issue miniseries.
One Star Squadron, which is sounds on the surface like it's exactly the right thing. It's, oh man, Mark Russell, Steve Lieber, Dave Stewart, and of course, head of the trade unionists, Dave Sharp. And I'm sorry. This book is so disappointing to me, and that's why I put it in here. This should be my favorite thing right now, and it is just, I don't even know what it is.
I don't know the why of it. I don't know why. I don't know why it exists. I don't know why the story is being told. I don't know what the story is being told. There's a lot of, again, funny bits and things in here.
But they're not even that fun.
But they're not. This is what I talked about last month in December. Too many Mark Russells. I feel like it's diluted. This isn't a Mark Russell. This is more like B minus Mark Russell.
Well, I mean, it's the thing is the contrast of this to Not All Robots, and I, both came out this week. Not All Robots is like, I'm not really sure if this is right, but there is a lot of interesting thinking in here. And this one, I don't even like. I'm not getting anything, and it's such a bummer because every once in a while I'll refocus and be like, "Boy, this looks good." Oh, right, it's Steve Lieber. I'm like, what is with you two right now? And I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read everyone because I am, but I want there to be. I'm hoping a point will show up, and I'm hoping that there will be something interesting because I don't see it right now, and I
would say again, like there are things here that are interesting, like the guy takes the knockoff Miracle O pill, so he only has 45 seconds of power, so he thinks he has a minute, and he gets beaten up by the kids with the hammers.
But even that's vignettes. It's silly vignettes.
That's what I mean. It's vignettes. My favorite part of this issue was they got a gig, doing security for a meeting, and it's LexCorp, and it's this Plastic Man and Flamebird. Who is that? I don't know who that woman is. And they don't really have to do anything. It's easy money. They just have to be there as security because Lex has his own security, so the other guy brought his security. And I like that they just sort of hung out with Sportsmaster, and this other dude looks like a lumberjack.
They got free juice.
And they tell this free
vitamin water.
There's vitamin water, and they talk about their relative apps they use. Like, I don't know that this is good, but there's interesting things that occasionally happen in it.
Was Hench is the villain app, but was that in something else?
Maybe
that I've heard of before, and I couldn't place it. I don't know if it was in Wonder Twins or something. I thought it was like an image. Anyway, doesn't matter. There was a bit of commentary in the end where Minuteman, who is dining out, in fact, they made a movie about him at post 9/11. Freedom isn't free. That he's at Metropolis Comic Con signing, and no one cares. And Mark Russell is there next to him, tells him there's a VIP room where there's good food, so he goes there, and he's not allowed there, but the actor who played him is. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a commentary on the state of comics versus movies based on comics. Yeah. Like the comic character's kicked out of the VIP area, but the actor who plays him, who doesn't even know who he is allowed to hang out in the VIP area with the food. So is this about the later stages of comic creator careers?
I don't know what it's about. I don't know.
Because if it's that, that's a thing.
There's a lot going on here.
Like if you think, well, okay, so this guy's like, Marv Wolfman or, Ron Mars or somebody like who did a lot of important things in comics for a while.
No.
And now isn't, I don't know.
I don't think it is. And I wouldn't even, that's not even a good analogy for Minuteman, who's a character who's not even C-list,
Yeah,
If
no,
it
that's
was-
true. But
If it was Red Tornado, maybe. If it was somebody like who was big in the 80s and isn't now, that would make sense. But what Minuteman is, you put a gun to my head before this series, I wouldn't even told you Minuteman existed.
no, me neither. But I mean, either way, though, is the thing where like the source material isn't the important thing anymore. The celebrity movie version of it is.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But that's just one of many things happening in the issue. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal number 8. This is the final issue of this miniseries. Now, I just said earlier we only have 5 issues, but this is an 8-issue miniseries.
I forgot this existed. How'd it turn out?
This was a solid. This is one of Garth Ennis's best things he's done in a while. Goran Suzuka was the artist, and as mentioned earlier, Rob Steen on letters. This was Garth Ennis has done a lot of random stuff here and there. That's basically what he does now. He's really sort of seems to just want to do his war stories, which is great. But he will occasionally do these other things. He did that super dark one a while back about hell, about the devil that I liked, but it was super dark. This was more fun. I'm going to say this sentence, and I realize what I'm going to say. It's sort of in the vein of Preacher. And what I mean by that is it's funny, it's a little over the top, and it investigates Garth's very complicated feelings on religion, which aren't that complicated. But
Is there a character and or relationship that you fall in love with?
no, I'm not saying exactly like Preacher. I'm saying
No,
totally it's a little
that's
Preacher-esque.
That's
Sure.
the hook for him.
Well, there's two sisters here, who are the main crux of the story, but it's all about what's his name, the evil one, who's basically the devil, who is trying to replace religion throughout history. Like he's got this machine that will insert him into religion, so that when he will be the one who's worshipped and not God, and it's very much of Garth's whole thing about religion and how, I don't want to get into it, but if you read his books at all, how his feelings are about religion. And so, we go back to the point in history when the first caveman pointed to the sky and said, "He is watching you," just as a way to get out of trouble. And that was sort of the beginning of religion in this book. And so, it's been about stopping these two evil people from becoming the new sort of gods of the world, replacing Jesus as the figurehead of religion.
Wow.
But
That's
really
a
well
lot.
drawn, funny, good character stuff. Like, look, this is not A level Ennis, but this is like solid B Garth Ennis. I thought this was a fun miniseries. This is from AWA, who
Cool.
seems to be Garth's new home, at least for now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, so those are the books we're going to talk about. Not a lot of books this week.
No.
And when you sent over the script with only a few books in it, I was like, wow, I got a lot of space to fill in. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to do that. So
That was the
I'm
thing.
Not,
Like I didn't want to put a bunch of books in and be like, this was fine. So I think we did okay.
Things to talk about, but let's talk about the Patron Pick, patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where the patrons can vote to add a book to the rundown. And much like our feelings this week, there wasn't a strong consensus. There wasn't a strong push. The votes were spread out amongst a lot of books. The winner was Wastelanders Doom #1, which only won by 1 vote, and received about half the total number of votes the winner usually receives. That's how spread out the votes were this week, because it was a weird week. Written by Torunn Grønbekk, who is the co-writer of, or really the writer of, The Mighty Valkyries, with Jason Aaron. She's an Icelandic writer. Drawn by Julius Ota, Brian Valenza on colors, and of course Corey Pettit on letters.
You'll notice you didn't know any of those names till the lieutenant, Corey Pettit, showed up.
Well, I knew Torunn Grønbekk, but the other ones, yes.
Well, right.
So Wastelanders is a podcast that Marvel's doing. It's set in the Old Man Logan world. And so they've been doing tie-in issues as a way of promoting that podcast. And so that's what this is. I only read...
So last night, I thought I need to look up what the hell this is before I get on the show, and I didn't, and I'm so grateful to you for doing it.
Well, because over the break, I read Wastelanders Hawkeye, because it was written by Ethan Sachs, who wrote the terrific Old Man Hawkeye miniseries. And that was a lot of fun. And I was like, what is this? Because I thought it was just ended. It was a one shot. I was like, why did they do this? And I looked it up, and it's because there's a podcast. And now there was a Star-Lord one. This is Doom. They're going to do Black Widow. I assume these are all characters. I'm not going to read all these and or listen to the podcast, but I did read this one because it was the patron pick, and I thought it was okay.
I thought that the story was pretty good, like the setup.
Yes.
I didn't have any idea what was going on, but there's this town that is not paying attention to Doom.
It's in Doom's territory. So in the Old Man Logan world, the heroes have been killed, and the villains have carved up America into their own fiefdoms. This is an old, classic, terrific Marvel story that Mark Miller originated in the Wolverine comics, Old Man Logan.
You've got this place where it is not in drought. There is rain. There are people, and they seem oblivious to Doom and everything that's going on around.
It's in Doom's territory, but there's a town that does not care that they are in Doom's territory. And Doom can't have that.
I wasn't really. I was just like, I was following along with it. And then he says something like, there's strange magic here. And what it is that they get the rain via magic by transporting it from like 1400s Italy. And I was like, that is an awesome idea.
That was a great idea. I was like, oh, shit.
I was blown away by how cool that idea was. And he goes in, he's trying to figure it out, and it gets kind of trippy. I think in general, the story was really strong. Mm-hmm. And as a one-shot, it worked out pretty well. I thought the voices and dialogue were off a bit, which kind of makes sense, I think. There was things that Doom said. I was like, that doesn't sound right. But everything else, like what he did and why, it all kind of made sense. And like he shows up and he's talking to Mephisto, and his mother's there, and his tortured cries, and he's like, here we go with the mother again. It was Doom. He was
I kind of wish. Who did the cover? It was scrolling. It was Jose Maria Casanovas, and I kind of wish that person had done the cover, because the cover was awesome.
Yeah.
But I had done the inside art. The inside art was okay. So standard. There was one bit, because I'm not 100% on Doom's backstory. So there's one bit
changed a lot.
So the whole thing here is he's trying to figure out who's doing this magic, and they keep throwing memories at him, because in order to enter this realm, he has to give up a memory. And so that's what the Mephisto thing is.
That
the memory.
was also brilliant.
And at one point, there's a beautiful young woman, and she's reading a book, and she's like, "Come here, my love," and he goes, "Valeria," and I went, "Ugh." But then I didn't know that it wasn't Valeria Richards.
I had exactly the same. It
was his original love of Valeria, who he named Valeria Richards after.
Right.
Because I was like, oh.
Because he cares. He's very got a very paternal relationship with Valeria, which is his
goddaughter. I think is a great relationship in the comics. That's why I was like, ugh, don't do that.
Yep. No, they fixed that. You're right. I bumped on that same thing. But even that concept of like, you have to give up one of your memories, and he's like, nope, keeping that one. And the one that he gave up is a person who was kind to him, and I was like, ooh, that's going to have consequences, and then, the whole setup, it's Mordo, and he's doing it because he's got Agatha Harkness and Thrall who's making this happen. And I was like, that's a good bit of stuff.
Yeah, I think this was okay. Like, I didn't dislike it. I think the art kept me from loving it, because I thought the art was just fine.
Pages that were good, and then there's sort of certain drawings that are less so. But for the most part, I think it was pretty
as a one shot story. I think it was solid.
Yeah.
So let's rate Wastelanders Doom #1 ratings. 5.
3.5.
I was going to say 3.25, but that's close enough.
I was actually leaning towards 7.5, but I respected it more than I loved it.
So, it's the one shot. So, are you going to read any other Wastelanders books?
If something catches my eye.
Did you read Hawkeye?
I think I haven't read it yet. I think it's in my backlog.
It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable.
No, I haven't read it yet, because I don't remember anything about it, but it's right here. Yeah, it's on enjoyable. I have no plans to read it. It's like 10 back, so
I get you
in my reread.
Yeah,
not reread.
So patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can vote to add a book to the rundown. All patrons can do so.
Hey, and
quick break.
And bonus patron pick. Second place was Monkey Meat #1, and I barely made it through it. So in case you were curious, you voted for that. What was it? I'm glad I don't have to talk more
It would
about
have been a
it.
very different review. I had a feeling that's how that book was going to go.
Whoa.
Quick break for talk about how hey, you're maybe enjoying the show. We are. And if you enjoy it and you want to keep it going and you want to see it expanded and grown, the best way you can do is support the show in our new user-supported economy, our audience-supported economy we all live in now. And that's the best way to do that is at patreon.com/iFanboy. That's how you directly support the show. You unlock shows for everybody to listen to. You become part of a great community. We have all kinds of things we do for the patrons. We do hangouts with them. They have a Discord server community that's great. And they unlock shows for everyone to listen to. The Book Explodes, the Talk Explodes, the Media Explodes are all unlocked by the patrons. We have other shows just waiting in the wings as stretch goals. And when they do that, everyone benefits. So patreon.com/iFanboy is the best way to support the show. But hey, if you want to buy some merch, ifanboy.threadless.com. We've got 12 t-shirt designs there. You can get those designs on other things, but primarily people buy t-shirts. And our newest one that we released right before the holiday break is the Gosh design, the good old superheroes. And that's a fun one. I got my Gosh shirt over the break.
I believe I'm wearing my Clint is Dead shirt. Yes, I am. I'm wearing my Clint is Dead shirt. The problem with the Clint is Dead shirt right now is that I would like to wear it, but it is winter. I rarely wear a t-shirt just on its own. So I don't. Every time I wear it, I feel like I'm kind of wasting it.
You're wearing it. You know you're wearing it under those 4 layers of
I am.
LL Bean
And to be
that you're
fair,
wearing.
even if my t-shirt was exposed, I'm always here. It's not like I'm showing it to anybody in the world. Right. So
I understand. I brought a bunch of those to New York with me because they're very comfortable, a bunch of our shirts.
Sure.
ifanboy.com/support. That's where you can directly help via PayPal. It's like our tip jar, and we thank everyone who does that. ifanboy.com/Amazon. That's where you can find links to the Booksplode books we talk about, as well as a general shopping link. And a bookshop.org is our newest partner. We've partnered with bookshop.org to help out local bookstores. I don't know if you know about bookshop.org, but when you sign up for that, a portion of your sale goes to local bookshops. You can actually select a specific shop to get your dollars, or you can just go into a general fund. I am a member, and I have a specific bookshop that gets my extra dollars. So where appropriate on the website, you'll find links for bookshop.org. So anyone who supports the show, we had a strong 2021 in terms of help and support and doing shows and tons of things we did, all because of you out there supporting the show. We do thank everyone does that from the bottom of our hearts. Let's have a good 2022. People.
I mean, it's a low bar.
We're back.
Listen, even these chuckles is the best I can muster.
Patreon. Is that what we're doing? Patreon. Yeah, we're still doing patrons.
Yeah. I was in the same thing. I was ready to answer an audience question. I had moved on.
If you are a patron who gives at the $5 or higher level, as we just mentioned, every patron can vote to add a book to the rundown, but the $5 or higher level, you get your own superpower live on the show. And let's start the year off right with 2 C's.
Cody can give or remove any and all levels of itch. He can add itching. He can remove itching. He has analgesic properties. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's a weird word. Yeah.
The itch.
So the itching is fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
They don't really know what it is. It doesn't really have a physical component.
Well, it must be an evolutionary warning against danger. Like you're touching something that's going to hurt you.
But there's really not much to do about it.
Sure, it just drives you crazy.
Like people who have chronic itches, like you can't do shit. And it's right. I heard a whole thing because I'm a 44-year-old educated white male. I listened to a Fresh Air episode about it. And had some random doctor on that was talking about it. This was years ago. This has nothing to do with it. I just find it fascinating. Is that like, and it's like on a level, like it can cause people as much discomfort as like severe pain.
Oh, but God, especially, yeah.
Cody can, it goes both ways. He can give it or take it away. Use it for evil or good.
And increase the intensity?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say that as you've been talking about this, I've suddenly started itching everything.
That's why it's weird. It's completely mental. It's like, can you think of anything else that you can pass along to anybody like that just by mentioning it? Yeah, but a yawn is pleasant.
Yeah, I literally just started scratching the back of my neck, and now I feel like my shin's itchy, and now my cheek.
Right behind the part where my headphones hit behind my ears. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out that I don't think it'll be simultaneously, but that'd be awesome. But thousands of people listening to this
are itching.
Yeah, like the end of their
all
nose.
over the globe, people are itching.
Oh man, I love it.
It's like a science experiment.
I can't take it away, but I'm part of it. That's amazing.
Charles Phillips can communicate with babies.
When he communicates, does he say, "Hey, I'm Charles Phillips"?
Yes, he does.
How are you today, baby?
In his head, that's how he sounds to the baby. But the babies can understand him. He can understand the babies. Why are you crying? What do you want? What's bothering you? It's babies through toddlers. He can
Right.
he can understand what they're saying.
No idea how you came up with that one.
The
given your
nonsense
travels
talk
over
they
the last
make.
week.
Yeah, the nonsense words. He understands what they mean. He can, and his total understanding of babies and toddlers.
To this day,
Yeah.
my older son Henry,
Younger
who's
son Henry.
7, yes, younger son Henry. I don't know which one's which. My younger son Henry, who is 7, still has a bit of a speech impediment, and he will say things all the time. And Lindsay, who is a wonderful mother and very intuitive to them, will be like, "I don't know what he said," and I'm like, "He said this," and he's like, "Yeah." My son can't. When he says shirt or shorts, it's the same word. It's short. What's great about him, though, is that, and this is going to be like the worst parent, I'll probably get canceled. I can make fun of him for it, and he thinks it's hilarious.
Sure, you can do
I'm
it.
like, "Put your shirt on." He's like, "My shirt?" And I'm like, "Your shirt." And he laughs. And Lindsay's like, "You can't make fun of him." I was like, "We have a thing going. It's a bit we do."
Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can support the show and give it the $5 higher level. Get your superpower live in the show, like Cody and Charles. Thanks for being patrons. And now we'll get to those emails Josh talked about. Zach from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been thinking about this since Josh recently mentioned that he bought a piece of comic art this past year. I know that you can find art at cons, and I've seen it for sale online for fundraising purposes during the industry shutdown. But where can a regular schmuck get recent original comic art? Online, all I've really seen are flea market type listings, but I'd love to be an original purchaser. Anything helps.
So,
Zach, you need to up your internet game.
yeah, I mean, but what I would say is the thing that I like the best, the thing that I trust the best, there are art dealers.
Yeah, there's tons of art dealers online.
But they work, there's specifically guys who work as agents, more or less, for artists. They have like a stable of people. And so there's, I think it's Splash Pages one, Cadence Comic Art.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of the guy that I bought my Juan Ferreira page from.
Yeah, he no longer represents Bruno Redondo, by the way.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
At least all his art is gone.
Like if you go to eBay or Comic Art Fans, that's going to give you that kind of thing that you're talking about. But if you can find the folks who, like, Cadence is a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, there's less and less of it because there's less and less actual physical art. So there's less. You're going to find less and less art online to buy in the first place. Josh bought a Juan Ferreira, beautiful Juan Ferreira page last year, but there's less and less, artists who are drawing physically. So it's harder to find. But I mean, comic art is sold almost exclusively by agents, that Josh said. So if you Google an artist's name and original art, you'll probably find the agent who reps them.
Yeah.
And like a handful of guys that do the repping, they'll rep like 30 or 40 artists. And so you just find a list of people they rep, and then you'll see what's available for sale. But that's all done online.
So I'm at Cadence, and I just saw a big list of names, and I found some Tom Fowler pages, and they're not that much money. There's fully colored ones from Star Wars books that are like $400.
Right.
Sorry, I can't look on these sites. The fact that we're talking about it is a problem.
So Comic-Con art, that's the one that Josh bought Juan Ferreira from. That's the one that he was repping Bruno Redondo, and I know that just goes poking around Bruno Redondo's pages from Nightwing, and I missed out on one that I really, really wanted, and I even emailed him and said, "Hey, any chance this sale fell through?" But he reps probably 20, 30 guys. They're mostly Spanish and Latin American. But Brian Hurt's there for some random reason. And Matt Kent. Yeah, I mean, you just have to Google the artists you're looking for in their name and then original art, and you'll most likely find their dealer. Now, again, good chance they don't even have original art because they're dealing digitally.
Right. There's Cadence Comic Art, who's really got a lot of the names. A lot of folks, there's a handful of people who do their own. So, like, I know Scotty Young and Rob Guillory do their own. They have their own stores. Right. There's Felix Comic Art, who has a lot of newer artists, I guess. Like Cliff Chang and Nick Darrington, Nick Dragotta, Bilkis Everly, Ryan Stegman. If that's the guy who, I can't remember his name. I've met him. He's a good dude. But the idea is, if you think of it this way, this is the artist's life and work and everything, and these are the people that they have chosen to trust to do that stuff.
Oh man, Jorge Jimenez's art's expensive.
Yeah, well, it should be. There's almost none of these people who shouldn't be expensive.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, just he's yeah.
It's a $5,000 Stuart Immonen Captain America cover.
So anyway,
did I tell you what?
Yeah.
Sorry, we can't. I can't.
Yeah, this is a rabbit hole. It's a dangerous one. But Zach, just go online and Google a name and original art. You'll probably find their dealer. Some artists sell directly. You can find like Chris Somney's always putting his stuff up on eBay. You just have to figure out how to do it. And then when you see them at conventions, those are the same people. They just have an online store where there's no convention going on. Mm-hmm. So that's how you find original art. Email from Rashaad. The $5 book on core titles like Batman justify their price by including a backup story, which we talked about this week.
You didn't read the typo, which is not my typo. Oh. But he wrote $5 core titles.
Have backup stories now become detrimental to comics if they are causing books to push up the price tag further into a realm of cost versus time enjoyment for a series, especially if you don't like the backup story? I don't know.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's one of those, because you sign up for a thing because you want the main thing, but you're paying extra for another. Yeah. If it's good, I have this thing like with Action Comics. Like I've really enjoyed the main story in Action Comics, but it's 15 pages or 16 pages, and then you get into those backup stories, which have been insufferable for like a year. I don't know. I think it's sort of up to you, or vice versa. Is like Detective. Is I really didn't like the main story, but I thought the backup story was great. I probably wouldn't buy a book because of a backup story.
Yeah, I just think you're right. You're paying for the main book, and to me, it's like the main book is the draw, and the backup story is like the bonus. And if you like it, great. There's a lot of back stories I don't read. I don't read most backup stories. I don't read the one in the back of Justice League. I think has a Justice League Dark one. I don't read that.
Maybe that's the one I was thinking of. Justice League. That's the one, not Action.
Yeah, I mean, the one in Detective was awesome, and I'll read that one. I don't read the one in the back of Batman. I read the first chapter. I didn't like it, so I've been skipping it. To me, it's just purely a bonus that they are doing to try to justify the dollar increase, but really,
but that's where it comes in, though, is that you are paying more money, and they're saying, well, this is the other thing. So it's your call to a certain extent. It's like I do think that paying $5 instead of $5 is insane. Just let's right on the table. $5 is insane. And if you're now paying $5 and for 15 pages of story, then you have to think, well, God, how much do I really want to read this first story? But that's the chance that the publishers are taking.
Right. And it's mostly a DC thing.
As
they've been doing it for years. Yeah.
As a concept, as a comic form, if we take economics out of it, whatever, I love it. Because that's what comics used to be. You didn't used to have
several stories.
Right, and that would be the way it works. Just like when you went to the movies, you got a newsreel and a cartoon short and the movie, and I like the old-timey feel of it, but that's like an old nerd thing to say. Yeah.
You used to look at a cover and be like, Detective Comics, Batman, Hawkman, Dr. Fate. Like,
And it's why it's called Detective Comics and not Batman. Because
it was out before Batman existed.
Right, yeah. So I really like that.
I'm sort of agnostic about it. I just don't really care that much. Like I'm there for the main story, and if the backup's good, that's awesome. Like this week's Detective. But if it's not, I don't really care.
But I totally understand the economic
But it totally makes sense. These are too much. $5 is too much for 20 pages of comic. Mm-hmm. Even with the backup. We've talked about this before. I got in trouble.
I shouldn't be looking at Tom. There's Tom Fowler Hulk pages.
Stop looking at original art. Contact at iFanboy.com is where you can write in, like Rashaad and Zach from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for writing in. And now
we're going to need to up the Patreon numbers.
Yeah, the next stretch goal is Josh wants to buy some Tom Fowler art. So we're back. Let's talk about what being back means. This month we're going to have our Media Splode show, our first of the year. We're going to have a patron hangout for the patrons. We haven't set those dates yet. Josh is probably going to have a Talksplode.
Yeah, I'm. It's going to happen. Yeah, I talked to Will Dennis
in the last one.
Big deal editor, Vertigo Comics. There would be no Jason Aaron in comics if it weren't for Will Dennis.
Yeah,
just period. He pulled him off a slush pile, and it really there's a great story about how he tricked people into reading the book. Like it's nuts, and we owe him a lot. but just a guy who's been here through all of the interesting parts of comics, and we talked for an hour and change, and I was like, we're barely out of Vertigo yet, so he's going to come back.
So you're
we're
going to do part 2 of Will Dennis
Yep,
this month.
we are, and that will be my 100th episode of Talksplode. Not mine,
and you know,
'cause-
some people might be listening to this and going, I don't want to listen to us talk with an editor. It's actually really interesting. The nuts and bolts of comics and how they're made and the stories behind it and all that stuff I think is fascinating. It's like talking to a studio executive about old Hollywood.
I mean, we've gotten a lot of questions like, what does an editor do?
Right.
You know, and this is it's fascinating. It's so interesting. They're the
That'll
ones
be
who know
coming out
everything.
this month. Next month, that means you'll have a Booksplode, which we don't know what it is yet, but as soon as we know what that will be, we will tell you. We've been batting some ideas around. We haven't decided on one. And then before the break, we declared that we would be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home in January, and then Omicron broke out. So
What's that now?
I don't know when that's going to happen. I have no plans currently to go to the movie theaters, even though everyone's going to the movie theaters. That's your business and your choice. I have no plans currently. And I don't know about Josh, but
I was trying to go. You couldn't, like, over the break, the movie theaters are always full because my trick is to go at a time when nobody's going.
Right.
So I want to, because I really want to see it in the theater.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm sure you
I
do
definitely
too.
want to see it, but
I'm going to try to figure out a way, but I don't know.
I have things, people who are susceptible, and I'd like to be around those people. So I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work, if at all.
Yeah, that's
so. This is not us not wanting to see the movie. I desperately want to see the movie, but I desperately want to see it less, and I desperately want to see people in my family.
You know what I heard, which is weird? At the beginning, Peter Parker gets in like a horrible car accident, and he spends most of the movie in the hospital.
In a coma.
He's in a coma, and there's this other guy,
Sure.
played by a pretty much unknown actor.
Yeah.
It's unrelated to anything that happened before.
It's a swerve. Ugh. It's good to be back, Josh. I'm stretching because it's early.
This takes a lot of energy out of you. People don't realize that. Like, how could you just sit there? No, we're putting on a show.
When
That's
this
what
is
people
over, I
don't
take
know.
like a 4-hour nap.
Oh God, you know what's great? Naps. Every year I get older, the value of a nap goes up. It's like real estate. It
You've got a
always
couch now in
appreciates
your
in
office.
value.
You got a
Yes, I
couch. You
do.
can just pop over there and lay down.
No. It's a bed. It's a sleeper. I can go full bed at any point, provided I don't have 1,000 things to do, which I do. But
Well, let's wrap the show up so you can get to your nap.
I start my day now. If you can find all of our shows and all of our articles and all the writing and all of the stuff that has happened, those 99 episodes of Talksplode, for example, at iFanboy.com. You can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out by following iFanboy on Twitter or at iFanboy Comics on Instagram. You can follow us individually on Instagram. Both Connor and I are still there at CSGO Patrick and J.A. Flanagan. You can subscribe to the YouTube page at youtube.com/iFanboy to keep up with the old video show re-uploads. The full length those are all uploaded. It's just minis from now on. So you're like, well, shit. What was the pick of the week 13 years ago? Well, pal, I got a solution for you. What about young Josh? Oh, well, here he is. He made bad choices sometimes. Didn't appreciate his youth when he had it. This week, the pick of the week, Scalp number 19, which was 8 issues before the world hated me more than ever before, when Scalp 27 was the pick of the week. Is it 27?
I don't know. You did it.
It's the one I didn't pick, Blackest Night. Stand by it. But Scalp 19 looks like it was you, not me.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Who picked that. And then a mini on the book of the month, Starman Omnibus Volume 1. We did 2 of them and then didn't finish.
Yeah, our whole plan was to do. No, that was not book of the month.
Those were Booksplodes. Yeah,
that's the whole.
that was the first Booksplode. Was that one? I think.
I could tell you, but I'm not going to open the spreadsheet.
We could still do it.
I do want to point out that
those Starman Omnibus books are fantastic.
Yeah. I want to point out that over the break, I did also follow Josh out the door at Facebook. So we don't really have anybody updating our Facebook at the moment. I don't know how we're going to deal with that. But that's why you're only hearing about Twitter and Instagram.
Ah, yeah. I kind of noticed it and kind of didn't.
So I don't know how that's going to work going forward. But anyway.
You're up.
Hey, if you like the show, consider leaving a review or star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Even better than that is word of mouth. Tell your friends or someone on social media asks you what podcast you listen to. Even that's whenever anybody mentions iFanboy, we are appreciative. Thank you very much. And that's it. We're done with the first show of the year, 2022 in the books. Thanks for listening. I'm Connor.
I'm Josh. See you soon. Stay safe, be smart, and good luck.